Hello, 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 everyone. Good evening. Good evening. Blessings, Mama PG. Much love. Hey, chocolate covered pickle. How you doing? God bless. Much love to you. Number one in here tonight. Miss Justice, number two. Number two. All right. God bless. Good to see you guys. Good to see you. I knew Miss Justice was going to be somewhere in the top four. Yeah, right. She was in here New Year's. New Year's. She's at the top of the list. I was like, oh, I'm going to watch her all year. And it's true. It's true. Number three. Let's see who's. Oh, Deputy Sheriff number three. All right. God bless. There we go. I was the first to comment if anyone asked. And 1956, you are number four. Number four in here. God bless. Good to see everybody. Good to see everybody coming in tonight. Hey, Georgia Wild Child, how you doing? Patty, how you doing, sweetie? Good to see everybody. All right. Angel, good to see you. The reason I wanted to talk about the Jack and Lily case is because I heard I was watching some stuff today. I don't know how true it is. I don't know how true it is, but it's definitely new. If it is true, it's new information. It's new information. But to my understandings, um, there supposedly they found a letter. There's word rumor, word floating around that they found a letter early on, hidden inside that particular camper where Jack and Lily and the mother and Daniel was staying. And they said that it was the mother's handwriting, that it had been verified. It's been verified that it's the mother's handwriting, and that that I guess the letter said something, something to the effect of Daniel's eyes. So he's been changing. I could see something different in his eyes, and that she was scared, and that she was needing to get away. And then it said, if you're reading this, it's already too late. But they said they found it hidden, and I guess the words were like someone, like she had to write it really fast. Maybe he went out. Maybe he went out, for maybe to run to the store or run somewhere and back. And she wrote it really, they said that it was her handwriting, but it was written really quick. It wasn't, some places wasn't spaced. They said that, according to the rumor going around, that there was actually tear stains on, on the um on the letter as well, like someone had been crying. um I also heard that Jack was asking questions that his mother didn't want to answer. I don't know what questions he was asking, but someone said he was asking questions that, she said to a friend or something, that Jack had been asking her questions that she didn't want to answer. The little boy. So, but she didn't state what the questions were. She didn't tell the friend, what he was asking. Just that he was asking things that, that she didn't want to answer. Um, so I don't know, maybe he was asking why, she was staying with Daniel and allowing Daniel to abuse him the way he supposedly was, allegedly was. Um, I don't know. I have no idea what the little boy was asking, but that's rumor as well. Put a one in the chat if you've heard this through the grapevine. about the letter and and the little boy supposedly asking, stuff that she didn't want to answer for her son. Um, Nobody else has heard about it. Whoa. Yeah. I was watching it today. Um you got this grandmother here. I covered her before. I covered this particular grandmother before, but there was some stuff that um that we must have missed because I was went back and was re evaluating what this grandmother came out and said and so forth and so on. And it seemed like she had either somebody redid an interview with her, or left out some stuff that they now have put in. I don't know, but I know that all of it wasn't there the first time we went over everything. um, so I thought I would bring it back to the table. But really, the letter that supposedly law enforcement, and DCS got a hold of, and I guess they said the searchers were you know, pretty upset that, um, the letter didn't, the news about the letter didn't come out sooner because, it could have saved them a lot of hours combing the countrysides, right? It could have saved them a lot of time and everything. Maybe they could have, been looking elsewhere if they'd had that news early on, the way law enforcement and DCS had it, that they may have been able to, you know, did something different. They might have thought of ways to do something different that may have found the kids. Maybe went in a different direction of searching. But since, I think what the searchers were saying is we wouldn't have been looking up on top of the ground. We would have been really focusing on the ground, right? On the ground. And I think that's what they were trying to say. So, yeah. But I'm going to let you guys hear it.
Grandmother of missing NS kids recalls hearing their voices, followed by nothing. Janie Mackenzie says she believes Lilly and Jack Sullivan are still alive. Janie Mackenzie lives on the same property as her son, Daniel Martell, in the rural Pictou County community of Lansdowne Station, NS. Janie Mackenzie was asleep in her trailer when she awoke to the sound of her dog barking, a telltale sign her two young step-grandchildren were out playing on a swing set in the backyard. She said she heard Lilly and Jack Sullivan's voices. Her bedroom is only a few steps away. After that, I heard nothing, said Mackenzie of the morning of May 2nd, when the two children disappeared from the property in Lansdowne Station, a sparsely populated community in Nova Scotia's Pictou County. The next thing she did hear was her son, Daniel Martell, yelling the children's names. A short time later, she emerged from the trailer to find the children's mother, Malahia Brooks Murray, standing in the driveway with her 1-year-old daughter on her hip. Extensive searches turn up little evidence. Brooks Murray told her the children were missing, recalled Mackenzie, and had been gone for about 20 minutes. I closed the door, got my boots on, came out here, ran up in the woods, Mackenzie said in an interview outside of her trailer. It is the first time CBC News has been given access to the property from which the children went missing. Mackenzie said she was speaking to her brother on the phone for about 2 minutes at 8:48 a.m. local time and then dozed off before being awoken by the dogs barking, so the children went missing sometime after that. What followed was days of extensive searches of the property and surrounding woods that turned up little evidence, aside from 2 boot prints and a piece of a blanket. Over the past 11 weeks, nearly a dozen RCMP units.
Now, one of those boot prints was right there on their driveway. One of the boot prints, was right where Grandma had been raking. She said she was going to put a swimming pool out there and was raking and cleaning up the area to do so. I don't think so. I mean, I don't think that's the case. You know, I think if she was raking, it was to cover something up. That's my opinion. I'm going to keep it. That is her son.
It's including major crimes have been working on the case, but have released few details about what may have happened to Lilly, 6, and Jack, 4. Mackenzie has decided to share her side of the story in the hopes of bringing more clarity to what transpired that morning and to help dispel the flurry of rumors that have been circulating online. I blame myself for not getting up that morning to see the kids because this would have never happened, she said through tears. Mackenzie described the scene on her property where she has lived for 26 years as chaotic on that first day of the disappearance as RCMP officers, search and rescue officials and reporters descended upon the rural community. 2 years before, Mardell and Brooks Murray came to live there with Jack and Lilly, whose biological father had chosen a few years prior not to be a part of their lives. Soon after, Mardell and Brooks Murray welcomed their daughter. Mackenzie said she gave the young family the mobile home and she started living in a small RV. She built the wooden swing set in the backyard, which she outfitted with a blue slide and sandbox. They were part of my life for 2 years. When they came to live here, they became part of this family, said the 59-year-old Mackenzie.
So basically, this grandmother gave up her house, gave up her home, and so that these kids, her son and this particular girl and the children could live inside the bigger trailer, and she moved out there into the little smaller one with her other son. So basically she was out there living in hell, right? So they could have I can't say it was a lot nicer, but it's better than what she's in. And why would she do that? Well, I mean, she's been there 20 some years, 26 years to be exact, she said. Why would she give her home up in order for these people to take it over? I mean, that don't sound right. That don't sound right. Sounds to me like she moved out to the trailer because it was hard to live in her own house with her son and this particular girl. It's what it sounds like to me. Kind of sounds like, they moved in and pushed mommy out, right? Pushed grandma out of there. And that will happen. That will happen, if you allow it. People will move into your home and try to move you out. I don't know. But it sounds like, and that young girl and Daniel, they weren't the ones they wasn't the ones that built that swing set and everything or bought the swing set. That was his mom. His mom went and bought that swing. His mom and probably, her son that lives in the trailer with her, they probably built it for the kids. It sounds like they were the ones that actually was trying to do something for these kids, not Daniel and the mother. And there's also this one particular YouTuber, and he went there on on the um under the impression that he saw where they had a horse trailer for sale, and he went there under the impression of buying it so he could talk to the grandmother and the mother's mother and the mother's stepdad, who was with the mother's mother, and Layla's mom and stepdad. And anyway, he goes there, and while they're looking around the horse trailer and and everything, he's talking with the stepdad, and the stepdad starts telling him all these secrets about Daniel, not liking the kids, and how he would allegedly abuse the kids and abuse their mom, the kid's mother, and how he didn't only like, basically like Fred Hill, he according to this stepdad, Daniel was making and distributing and using the big M word, right? The big M word. And just like Fred, and supposedly was doing as well. So, and he said Daniel supposedly came there like at Christmas or something, and stayed outside. Like he didn't come in the house or anything. He just hung outside the whole time, and really didn't partake with the family. So they didn't really like Daniel, and they said that they was asked to take lie detectors tests too, because they would go and pick up the kids and then drop the kids off. So anyone affiliated with the kids was asked to take the lie detectors test. And so the stepdad said he did, and his wife did. And, their daughter supposedly took one, and Daniel said he did. So a lot of people were taking lie detectors tests. And now I guess they're trying to say they heard a vehicle. They supposedly heard a vehicle. Yeah, Phoebe. Um, in the driveway now. I didn't ever hear about nobody hearing no vehicles in the driveway, but now I guess they're saying that, supposedly now a vehicle was heard running in the driveway too. Did anybody else hear that?
Mackenzie said she and her family have been nothing but cooperative with police since the children disappeared, all while it has attracted intense international interest. Mackenzie said there was one instance on the very first day of the search when an officer attempted to enter her trailer and she stopped the officer, but only because she wanted to remove her dog first. Since then, the property has been scoured. Both RCMP and search and rescue officials have searched the property's mobile home and trailer multiple times.
She stopped the officer because she wanted to get her dog. Yeah, I heard rumor that she was hiding something up in there, um you know from law enforcement or something. So she said she wasn't hiding nothing. She wanted to clear that up. She wasn't hiding anything. um she was just basically wanting to get, her dog. I bet you 10 to 1, you know, how older people are, right? You know how older people are. They want to go back in the kitchen, make sure they shut the cabinet door, or they want to, go back and make sure they lock the door or turned off the stove, or, unplugged something. Um, that's what older people do. And I don't think she's wanting to get the dog. I think she was wanting to make sure, that she put back in place whatever needed to be put in place to hide whatever probably she was wanting to hide, right? Um, that's my opinion. I'm gonna keep it.
The well and septic tank have been searched. A drone was even flown under the mobile home. Mardell was also given a polygraph test, which he says he passed. And yet, accusations that she or her son are somehow involved in the disappearance continue to be hurled their way online, she said. My life has been turned upside down, inside and out, she said. I had nothing to do with any of this. I want them home safe and sound just as much as everybody else does. I want to know what happened. I want the rumors to stop. I just want everything to stop. For me, for the sake of the other children, my grandchildren. They don't deserve this. They're innocent of everything. Jack and Lily are innocent of everything. They didn't deserve this. In the beginning, her family was receiving regular updates about the investigation. But that has all but stopped in recent weeks, leaving her and Mardell with many unanswered questions. She feels the case now lacks the urgency it deserves. She's also critical of the RCMP's initial response to the case, questioning how far two children could have reasonably traveled through thick woods in the span of roughly 20 minutes. Having lived on the property for decades, she's acutely aware of just how dense the forest is, which was made worse by downed trees during post-tropical storm Fiona in 2022. We've went for walks in the woods. I had to practically carry Jack through the woods because there was no way that he was walking through all that tree falls and bushes, she said, later taking CBC News through a path the children often used, littered with crisscrossing trees. RCMP investigation questioned. I don't think they're in the woods. We searched this place. They had helicopters out. They had drones out. They had searchers. They went over this place with a fine-tooth comb. A member of Brooks Murray's extended family is also critical of how the RCMP investigation has played out. Darren Geddes, a cousin of Brooks Murray's grandmother, said he had been speaking with many members of both families in the weeks following the disappearance and believed he had information that could be pertinent to the investigation, but was brushed off by the Mounties. It's not hurt. It's rage. And I'm trying to control it, Geddes said in a recent interview, adding he did eventually track down an officer to take his statement. On Wednesday, RCMP said units from Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and Ontario are working on the case. Spokesperson CPL Carly McKin said a pink blanket that was seized on Lansdowne Road on the first day of the search is being forensically examined. McKin said the family has confirmed the blanket belongs to Lilly. McKin said police are following up on more than 600 tips from the public, reviewing 5,000 video files and have interviewed more than 60 people. Asked if police are investigating the possibility of the children still being alive, McKin said, "We've not closed any doors on the investigation at this point." She also said an RCMP family liaison is in regular contact with a designated relative of Lily and Jack, providing ongoing updates and support. She would not say who the designated relative is. Mackenzie said she lived a quiet life before the disappearance launched her and her family into the spotlight, as keyboard warriors and podcasters dissect every aspect of the case. She said cars will drive by and slow down, peering down the gravel driveway flanked by the mobile home and trailer. It's also not uncommon for drones to be flown over her house, for members of the media to knock at her door, and to be recognized everywhere she goes. I mostly stay around back here, and if I do go out front for anything, I usually have my head down because I don't want people to see who I am, she said, seated in front of a green fence that separates her trailer from the rest of the property. It's not because I'm hiding from anybody. I'm just a quiet person that just wants to be left alone. The day after the children went missing, Mardell and Brooks Murray attended an RCMP briefing. After that, Brooks Murray did not return to the home in Lansdowne Station and has not been back since. Mackenzie said she also hasn't seen her two other grandchildren, Mardell's kids from a previous relationship, since the disappearance. She remarked that she went from seeing her 5 grandchildren regularly to not being able to see any of them, and yearns to be called Granny once again. Brooks Murray did one interview with CTV News the day after the disappearance, but has not spoken to media since. Her mother has told CBC News they were told by police not to speak to media. Through it all, Mackenzie does not believe the children are dead. You know, if something bad happens, you get like your heart drops. Mine hasn't dropped, she said. Deep down in my heart, I do believe Jack and Lilly are alive.
Well, she says that she believes they're alive, but then you've got the biological grandmother of the biological dad who said she believes that the children are, no longer with us. And you've got others who believe the children are no longer with us as well. And the way that the mother's speaking, the way the mother has, spoke out, and the stepdad and the biological mother of the mother, the grandmother, on the biological mother side, I would say that, it at this point, I'm thinking that most you got that 90-10. 90% think the kids are, no longer with us. You got like that little 10%, still, trying to hold the hope. But also the mother, supposedly these people live on some type of reservation, or supposedly wanted to live on a reservation, or something to do with a reservation, and had applied to be on one. Am I getting that right? They applied to be on one. Well, anyway, I guess the stepdad said that there's this chief, this person called a chief, on this reservation thing or whatever. And supposedly, from what I was understanding, when the stepdad was talking to this particular YouTuber that was, wanting to buy the horse trailer, from what I gathered, the stepdad was saying that that the mother has moved onto this reservation in a house right next door to the chief. Right next door to this chief. She's not living with her mom or her stepdad. She's supposedly living on this reservation now in a house next door to this chief. Right? Yeah, I'm right. Okay. I appreciate that, Patty Allen. Yeah, so she's kind of, on the reservation, do they live in houses or tents? Do you know? I mean, I'm not sure what, because I think reservations, that's Indian, right? And if it's Indian, then don't they live in teepees, like, or do they live in houses now? I mean, I don't even know. I do know that I heard some really bad stuff. About I heard some really bad stuff about reservations. I had to stop a minute and listen, because I promise you, I was hearing some pounding, like a hammer, some pounding, um, ab- above me, right above me, in my house, above me, like, oh, hell no. Little Mr. Fix It. I'm trying to listen, you guys. I'm trying to listen. Yeah, I'm definitely hearing something. Hold on a minute because, no, 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 no. Hold on. Okay, okay. I'm going to tell you what. I'm going to tell you right now. I hollered. I hollered. Who's a poundin'? Who's a poundin'? I heard somebody holler back, not me. Hold on a minute. I got to go check it. Hold on a minute. I heard not me. So if they said not me, so hold on. Okay. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. They ran me up. They ran me up the first flight of stairs. I wasn't heading to the second flight, but I'm going to tell you what, I think when I hollered up the first time, everybody scattered. That's what I think. Because when I went up the first floor, nothing's there. Like nobody. It's cleared out now, and so they've all headed to the main upstairs, and yeah, yeah. So I heard pounding. I heard pounding. I don't know what they did. I don't know what they were doing. Somebody said not me. And if somebody says not me, then they're saying I'm not doing it, but somebody else is. I'm just wondering who was doing what, right? Probably Mr. Fix It. Probably Mr. Fix It. Yeah. I'm going to tell you, you got to watch that one all the time, man. You got to watch him all the time, all the time. You got to keep an eye on it. You got to keep an eye on this kid because he always be doing something. I mean, you hear pounding, you might not have a wall somewhere, right? You might all of a sudden need a drywaller, right? you might you might need a whole new freaking bathroom. You might need a whole new kitchen. You don't know what you're going to need. You don't know what you're going to need. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm going to tell you that kid. I'm gonna get mother freaking gray hair. I'm gonna get gray hair. I promise you. Like straight up. I had a picture. I had a picture that I was wanting hung up, and I had forgot about it. I forgot about it. I asked, I asked my kid's uncle and Mr. Fix It. I said, when you guys got time, I appreciate you put up this picture. And I was gonna have them. I bought this beautiful, beautiful mirror. Oh, it's a beautiful mirror. Very heavy. I was gonna have them, install. Oh hell no. Um, I just wanted it, I just wanted it put into the bathroom. And the next thing I know, Mr. Fix It thought we should tear the whole bathroom up. And, I'm like, what? Yeah, he was wanting to tear the whole I'm like, no, there's nothing wrong with the bathroom. I just wanted to change out the mirror, not destroy the whole bathroom, right? I mean, so the mirror it's not been put up yet because trust me, my bathroom door is locked. It's locked. I'm not going to open it because I'm worried. And I asked him to put up a picture. I heard, I came home. I heard a little bit of hammering. And man, I'm going to tell you what. I was like, I don't think I've moved that fast since I was, a toddler. I don't think I moved that fast since I was like a toddler. I was really moving 90, dropping everything. Like my purse hit the floor, everything in my hands were, just throw it here, throw it there. I'm trying to get, to where they was just hanging the picture. But that's how, like, on edge Mr. Fix It has you, right? He has you. I'm like, I might not have a staircase to go up, you know? I might have to, somebody might have to lower me a ladder, you know, if I, to get to the next floor with Mr. Fix-It. So, yeah, you guys, you don't even know. You don't even know. He's on a roll. That child is on a roll. Yeah. Now I'm gonna tell you, Mr. Fix-It knows what a hammer, a sludge hammer. He, trust me, he knows what all of them tools are. You know, just don't take him to the hardware store. Don't take him to the hardware store, because he knows the latest and most updated tools there is. You know, like this kid is a tool fanatic. He knows everything. And he wants to fix everything, right? They even had an ideal. To send me up a tree. They want me to go up the tree, right? They were talking about bringing down a tree, and they're talking about sending me up the tree to take off the branches. I'm like, are you kidding me? I would probably take off the branch I'm sitting on. Are you for real? Oh, hell no. I ain't going up no tree. You call tree men out for that, right? You call tree people if you want a tree brought down. You don't send your mom up there. That's crazy. They're like, you could do it. I think I've heard that somewhere before. Right? Yeah. You should see the stuff they try to get me into. You should see the things they... Yeah, you don't know. Man, I had to take a couple... Remember, I was, wasn't in here very much because I had a lot of things to take. That's what I was taking care of. Like, my daughter decided that she wanted her room. And I'm going to tell you, that child ain't... She better be happy with that room. She better be happy. Because I'm going to tell you what. It ain't getting redone again. It ain't getting... Next time it gets redone, yeah, was when I could find somebody to marry her up, in a few years, when I could find somebody to marry her up and take her out of here. Be my luck. If they won't take her out, they'll probably try to come in, but hopefully they take her out, and that's when I'll remodel the room, right? I'll remodel it then. I'll turn it into a great big workout room for myself, maybe a library. Maybe by then I'll have the patience to sew something. I'll turn it into something. But I'm going to tell you what, till then, she better be all happy with it, because it was supposed to be, just some paint and stuff like that. And this thing turned into Mr. Fix-It ripping up a whole floor. And then when he ripped up the floor, it just escalated from there. And the next thing I know, it's a whole freaking remodeling job of the whole entire, the whole kit and caboodle, right? And yeah. That's why I had to take time off. And then I had to take some time off to recuperate from it all. Because I can't believe... I'm going to tell you, I can't believe I let Mr. Fix-It talk me into some of the things he does. He talks me into. He's always got ideals. And I'm always dumb enough to say, well, we could try it. We could see what it, we could see. And yeah. Yeah, exactly, girl. When I get done, I promise you, man, I'm gonna have freaking staircases leading to nowhere, and doors that are just stuck to the wall and shit like that. I don't know. Yeah. I'm going to be able to, stand in any room and be able to see into the next one. See into the next one. If this stuff keeps up, it's crazy. But anyhow, I did hear a hammer. I know I heard a damn hammer. I'll check it out after this live. And I'm going to finish this. But anyway, back to Jack and Lily's case. It's to my understandings when the guy was talking to him, that was out there, the other creator was out there. The stepdad was talking about, them living on the reservation. And I just was wondering, do they have houses? He said a house. But I thought they live in teepees. I thought they're like one with the land and stuff. I don't know. But anyway, I heard she's moved next to the chief, the chief of this thing. And yeah, just say no. That don't work, girl. That don't work, girlfriend. I'm gonna tell you. That don't work. You don't know Mr. Fix-It. You don't know Mr. Fix-It, He thinks everything needs to be fixed. He thinks everything needs to be fixed. And he thinks he knows how to fix it all. He's at that age where, where you can't tell them nothing, they already know it all. We all been there, right? We've all been there. I know I got there. And I think the wisest words I ever heard during the time that I thought I knew it all was, you don't know a damn thing. Right? You don't know a damn thing. And you know what? Later I figured out that was true. It was true. I didn't know a damn thing. Hey, so, but we all go through it. We all go through that stage where we, we think we know everything and we don't know shit. Right? We don't know shit. But that's the stage that Fix-It's in right now. Right? I'm still learning. I'm going to tell you, I don't think we're going to ever know it all, right? I don't think we're going to ever know it all. Much as we want to, ain't happening. Kim laughing my butt off. Anyhow, she's supposedly living with this guy, this chief guy. Do you think she's living there because he's promising her some type of protection? Why do you think she's there? Why do you think they want to live on a reservation? I mean, what? Like, I heard those reservations. I heard those reservations are like, some really bad stuff's going on those reservations. I mean, the last time I've heard about a reservation, I heard that, that they were like abusing, like, using and abusing and actually unliving a lot of young girls, right? A lot of young girls. Put a 1 in the chat if you heard that, because that's what I heard. That's what I heard. So I don't think I want to be on a reservation if they're that unsafe. If they're that unsafe, I don't want to be there. Oh, so you think it is protection? I don't know. I've heard some. And this letter is supposed to be talking about, it's supposed to be talking about, it's supposed to said something like, if you reading this, it's already too late. I need to get away from Daniel. And if you're reading this, then it's already too late. And it's supposedly in the mother's handwriting. Um, do you think that maybe they got into something that they felt they couldn't get out of? Put a one in the chat if you think that Daniel and this, and the mother of these kids possibly got into something, you know, some some weird stuff that they, possibly couldn't get out of. You think they might have joined into something that, that they were afraid. They were afraid, Do you think that maybe they were trying to, I don't know. I'm not sure, owed money. Yeah. Well, I don't know if he would owe money if he was, if he was cooking up, the stuff, and he was distributing the stuff, and he was, also using it. He was, not just making it, but using and distributing. He would have been bringing money in. He wouldn't have owed people. People would have owed him. People would have been owing him, like Fred. Fred wouldn't owe nobody. If Fred, was making it and taking it and distributing it, then, people would owe Fred money. Fred wouldn't owe nobody anything because he's making it, he's manufacturing, the product. And he's and then he's, basically distributing it. So people would owe you. You wouldn't owe nobody in that particular case. No, it wasn't snowing that day, Kim. It wasn't snowing that day. Um there was a footprint. It was kind of muddy. It was kind of, I guess it might have rained a little or something, and it was a little muddy, and that's what caught the footprint on the driveway of the from the little boy. There's according, I'm hearing it's the little boy's footprint, boot print that they're finding. um Don Wells, um Don Wells wasn't distributing nothing. Don Wells was all, he was, a customer. He wasn't distributing, making, or distributing anything. He was a customer to Fred and a customer to Andy. He was a customer to the people who were distributing stuff. And Don got everything he needed right there inside Ben Hill Road. If he wasn't at Fred, if him and Candace wasn't down at Fred's house, they were across the road at Andy's house. So they were, the stuff that Don and Candace did was already inside Ben Hill Road, easy access. All they wanted, just show up to get it. So Don was spending all his money inside Ben Hill Road. And I think that too, Amanda. I think that too. That's the way it looks. That's definitely the way it looks, honey. You're right. I agree with you. It sure looks that way. You know. But these kids right here, if there truly is a letter, if there really is a letter written by this mother that really says this stuff, really is saying, that kind of weird stuff, then I would say that, they had gotten into some weird stuff, and whatever they got into was, was those kids were going to pay, that she already knew that the kids were in danger. with whatever they got into. And like he said, if you're reading this letter, it's too late. And it was. And it was, because they didn't find it till after the children were missing. And they believed that it was written, way before a few weeks or more before the kids went missing. So, you'd be surprised what people get into. You'd be real surprised what weirdo people can get into. I mean, there's some weird stuff going on out there in the world, right? And some really weird things like, how about these people that get into Scientology, for instance, where they work you and, and you ain't, and like, they don't believe in you getting medicines and stuff. You can end up real sick. And, look what happened to, like, I think it was Elvis Presley's wife and her daughter had gotten into that Scientology stuff and went downhill pretty bad, right? And then some others have been, has gotten into it, and I hear that is allegedly is pretty abusive. I don't know. I haven't ever, got into no Scientology stuff, but I hear that, some really weird, like, people are trying to get away from it. Did you guys watch that show, that Scientology show, where they took this these women that get into it, the other women take them in and like brand them like cattle or something? Put a one in the chat. Did you see that, or was I the only one that's seen that? They had some kind of reality show going on, or some kind of thing, and some of the people talking about what went on during that stuff, and and it was really weird, right? It was really weird, to say the least. It was super weird. So I don't know, you guys, but people get into some really weird things. Yeah, it's definitely brainwash, and I don't think it's, some people ain't that hard to brainwash, right? Some people ain't that hard to brainwash. I mean, you know, like, they didn't have all their marbles to begin with. If you had all your marbles, you wouldn't get into any weird stuff, right? If you had all your marbles, you have to have some marbles missing, to go and get into, some weird stuff, that these people do, you know. I mean, like, if I go into a church and they lock the doors, and they have, a couple people look like bodyguards back there, watching the doors, and you know what I'm saying? I'm going to tell you something. I ain't going back there. That's just freaking weird. That's really weird. And I'm not showing back up. That's for damn sure. Because, oh, hell no. If somebody says, hey, sissy, you want to go to church with us? And I'm coming, I'm pulling up, and this church has got a big old wall and gates around it. I'm not going in there. I'm going to keep going. My ideal of a church is a big church on a big piece of free land that I can come in and out whenever I damn well please, and everybody is welcoming and they're kind and they're caring, and and you're free to come and go as you want, and everybody else is free to come and go, and nobody's trying to hold nobody nowhere. It's not, it's not some come in and let's lock it all down. No, not today, right? I got to go. Matter of fact, I ain't even going to come in when I see stuff like this. That's weird. This case has, yes. It reminds me a lot of Summer's case because Granny said she was sleeping. She heard the kids, she was sleeping. And then Candace's mom says, Grandis says, I was sleeping. This grandmother's sleeping. Seems like all these grandmas are sleeping. Makes you not want to go to sleep, right? Makes you not want to go to sleep because you're afraid to go to sleep. Something's going to happen if you go to sleep. That's just, it puts everybody on edge. Candace is supposed to be washing and drying clothes. You don't want to wash and dry clothes. Something might happen, all of these, all of these things. It's just really weird. It's like these two kids were supposed to be in the house. Grandma says they're outside. And Summer's supposed to be in the house, but Grandis tells somebody that no, Summer's supposed to be outside, and Candace was taking her to Dawn because Summer wasn't feeling well, and Dawn was going to take Summer supposedly to a hospital, kind of stuff. We hear all of these different stories. And then now we got Jack and Lily, and Grandma says no, they weren't in the house, they were outside. And we got the mother saying that I told Daniel, do you hear the kids? And he says no, and they go looking. And then Daniel says, no, actually it was me that told the mother, do you hear I don't hear the kids, do you? She says no, they went looking. You don't know who in the hell to believe. You just don't know. They're all lying. They're all, it's like they're working together. It's, something ain't right about all of these kids coming up missing, because it's like all of these people are working together. And, none of them are telling the truth. None of them are telling the truth. And that's the new to go to is, let's mix it up. Let's mix it up. Let's get everybody confused. You say that you say that you said it, and then I'll say no, I said it. And we'll be on the same page. We'll be on the same page about some things, but let's confuse them on other things. And that's the way Summer's cases went. That's the way this case is going. It's like, I don't know. It's like the devil's got a new game here that's being played. And I mean, it don't take you long to figure out the devil's games, right? Like turning the table and trying to put words in people's mouths that they didn't say. Instead of saying what someone said, you say what the fuck you wanted them to say, which wasn't what they said, right? But it was it was the devil's way of twisting things, evil people. Evil people. You always know an evil person when you see one, because they're playing the devil's old tricks. And, and you want to immediately, separate yourself from people like that. You want to call them out on their bullshit and separate yourself. Let them know, hey, You know, I know you're sitting in Satan's seat and you're, you're advocating for the devil, but it ain't going to happen here and it ain't going to happen today with, with me cuz I'm hipped on that shit, right? I already know. I already know where you're coming from and where you're going to, and you're going to have to go to hell on your own, right? Cuz you ain't going to drag me there with you. And you got to separate yourself from it. But that's what these people do. And they all play the same games. So I'm wondering, are they all into the same shit? Different, maybe a different state, right? Different people, but the same shit. That's what I'm wondering. Because that's what it seems like it is. It seems like, and I'm going to tell you, if you think Satan and this evilness, if you think these occult things are just, isolated, you know, to one state or the other state or, here, just there, I'm sorry to tell you, but that, um, Salem, you know, Salem has spread it out all over the world. Um, from way back when the settlers came and they all landed in this one little areas. Well, they spread it out, right? They spread it out everywhere. And, they grew, out all over the world. And this stuff goes on everywhere. It's huge, it's huge. Whether you want to believe it, you don't want to believe it, you know, it is what it is. And these people are everywhere. They're not just isolated to, New York City or, Pennsylvania or, up in Connecticut or, they're not isolated to just these, little weird places, on the maps. They're everywhere. They're in Kentucky, they're in Virginia, they're in West Virginia, they're all over the place, right? They're all over. They're in New York City, they're in Florida, they're everywhere. Evil is everywhere. It's scattered. And these people that get into this weird stuff, like Don Well said, um out of his own mouth, supposedly, allegedly, I didn't hear him say it, but according to Fred Hill and other people, Marlena Crawford's dad, which I believe him. If Marlena Crawford's dad said it, I believe it. But supposedly Don told him that Summer was sacrificed for his sins, right? And I believe that. I believe that. I don't think sacrifice for his sins as in, um, go everybody, let's go up in the woods and do some weird woo woo stuff. I don't think that's what Don was talking about. Although I think Jody Sue, and some of those people probably do go up in the woods. She said they go up in the woods and do all kinds of woo woo stuff. According to Jody Sue, they're up in the woods, right? Don't wear no perfume, and if you can't keep up, you'll end up lost or whatever. Don't take a bath and don't put on perfumes. I guess you got, they want you to come all stinking, right? They want you to come all stinking, but hell, that ain't no problem with all them people. I like to know when the hell they take a bath and put on perfume, because from what I understand, none of them do. So why would she even have to give them the memo when they be stinking all the time? I don't know. But supposedly they supposed to be up there doing some, some woo-wooed up stuff or something. I don't know what the hell they be up there doing, but obviously, that's the only kind of people who go in the woods today, right? The only people who go up in woods today are some really weird, some really weird woo-wooers and shit. But Don made that statement, and what I think he meant was, Summer paid the price for, you know, all the all the evilness that Don does. The showers, sleeping in the middle of the bed, you know, the boss's video, right? The boss's video that he sold for $5,000 of his boss doing evil stuff. And if he's letting his boss do evil stuff, then he would be letting other people do evil stuff too. That's just common fucking sense right there. And something really bad went wrong, and because of Domwell's sins and allowing and allowing all of this stuff to go on and being into all of this kind of stuff, then Summer, paid the price. She paid the price for all of his evilness. I think that is basically what he was trying to say when he told this man, that she was sacrificed for his sins. I don't think it had anything to do with, Jody Sue's running up into the woods, but then again, it could. I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, they might be up there drawing straws, and Don got the short one. I don't know. That, these people are all weird. But it sounds like this mother, if she indeed had a letter like that hidden inside that house somewhere that was found, then it sounds like they may have gotten into some weird, some kind of weird shit too. And what really bothers me is the fact that they've been trying to get into this reservation stuff, and I heard they were denied, and then all of a sudden, as soon as the kids come up missing, well, they're accepted, right? Did anybody else find that damn weird? Put a 1 in the chat if you found that really freaking weird. How the hell did that work? Somebody make that make sense. Because it don't make no sense to me. I mean, how can you be out and then the kids disappear and, oh, you're in. Yeah, you're in. Was there some kind of exchange, right? I mean, was there some kind of price to get in? Was there a price to be paid in order to be a part of this, whatever the fuck it is, stuff that, they have? Because I ain't for sure what the hell, all of this stuff is about. But, I hear that they were out and now they're in. And she's in. She's living right next door to the big chief. I find that kind of odd, to say the least. I find that odd. Do I think that Daniel unlived these 2 kids? Well, them kids been there, over 2 years, and he hadn't unlived them before. So, I would think that he wouldn't have unlived them, now, if he didn't. What I'm saying is these kids been there for over 2 years. He didn't do anything to them then. So I don't know. The mother, to be honest with you, they said the mother's the one that was being weird. The mother, the mother's the one that had that new baby and then wasn't taking care of the other 2 kids. She had that new baby and kind of just gave up on the other 2 kids. you know, and had Daniel taking care of him and everybody else taking care of him, and she was kind of isolating herself away from him. Was she preparing herself? Was she preparing herself for something? Put a one in the chat if it's possible. She was preparing herself, like trying to get unattached to him because she knew something was about to happen. I mean, that's what it kind of sounds like to me. Is she was, trying to isolate herself away from him, trying to hold on to the newborn baby, the one, it sounded like she was trying to wrap her arms around this new baby, hold on to the new baby because she was letting go of the other two. That's my opinion. That's what it sounds like. Yeah, that's true. That's true, Amanda. Absolutely. Those kids were exposed to some, you know, I heard that there was a fire pit out there. And I heard late at night, like Daniel would be out there all the time, um, firing that thing up with some real funky smells, packing to the neighbors and everything. And I heard the neighbors were complaining about, about this midnight smoke, this freaking, middle of the night smoke coming, through their yards and eloping the community, with all that weird smells. Um, did anybody else hear that? Like they said, they thought that maybe somebody's just, um, setting out, burning some wood, setting out, around a campfire, maybe, having a little campfire party or whatever. But they said that, or burning some rubbish or something. But they said, boy, it was starting to happen all the time. And it was starting to happen, at nighttime, not in the day, but, like regularly at night. And they even reported it, but nobody checked into it. Did you guys hear about that? Because that's going around as well. Bunch of weird smells. And they said they also found gloves. They found masks. They found, like all the tools to be, doing some weird stuff. I don't know. I have no idea. I've known some real weird, freaky people in my life. I've known some real weird, freaky people that got into some real weird stuff. And, you know, I'm like, I'm glad I ain't you, right? Man, you got yourself tied up in some shit that's cray cray. But, they they all freak out. They all freak out. They act real weird and, paranoid and weird and shit. And they're all evil. They're all evil and they say some evil stuff. And they always going around, trying to cause problems for other people, always lying, especially on good people, saying real ugly stuff, like, um, just pure lies. Like, they act like they're always helping somebody when they're not helping nobody at all. They totally lie on these people. Um, they're just fucking evil. And they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. And, and they get off. They get off on, on destroying good people's lives because they're evil. They got into some stuff, got into some stuff that they shouldn't have. And, and they feel they can't get out. They get into this stuff and then they feel like they can't get out of it. They're all scared and shit. Which is all, crazy because how can you sell something that ain't yours? You can't sell your soul. It don't belong to you. It belongs to God. You know, you can't nobody owns you but God. You're God's vessel. Nobody else's. I mean, I don't care what you get into. Um, you can get out, right? You can get out. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I don't know what these people are scared of, but they talk about some crazy stuff. Right. Yeah, exactly. They have to. They have to, Amanda, to keep from going to prison. I mean, you know, and I'm going to tell you, um, they're not, they're not, um, like take Brian Kohlberger, for instance. I think that he, you know, um, I think he is, he falls on the line of a psychopath, right? Um, because he admitted what he did. A psychopath will always admit. They'll admit what they did. They have no problem admitting what they did. Um, you know, but like a sociopath won't, right? A sociopath won't. A narcissist won't. Um, they won't. They're like, I'm not going to. Which one of you were? Hold on. Which one of you were hollering? Who was it? Okay, okay. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm sorry. Um, no, there was. I turned the sound off. I turned the sound off for a minute. Um, one of one of my one of my little groupies showed up, right? And I wanted to know who was hollering, not me, and who was doing the pounding, but I didn't get I didn't get I didn't get no confession. I didn't get no confession. I'm gonna tell you, my kids, you know, you can tell my kids, you can tell me, you can tell me who was doing it, you know, and they'll just look at you. And I'm like, why are you not, why are you not telling who's hammering? Because if they, because if I do something, I wouldn't want them telling on me, right? Well, at least I know now I was hearing a hammer, right? At least now I know I was definitely hearing a hammer. So, you know, you get a little bit of information, you know, when you use some strategy on these kids, but you don't get much. I mean, these kids, man, they stick together, right? They stick together. I'm like, shoot, I be feeling like I'm on the outside of all of this right now. Um, I'm gonna tell you, a a psychopath will just bluntly say, yeah, I did it. Like they're bold. They're bold. And I say that falls in that's what like Brian Kohlberger is, if you ask me. That's I think I think that's what he is. Um I don't think that Candace Wells or Grandis or you know, um and I don't think that, Daniel or the mother is that type of, you know, they're definitely not, you know, they're not psychopaths. Absolutely not. Um, I say Daniel's more along the lines of um narcissist to sociopath. Um, and the mother, I don't know. I haven't really heard enough out of her. Haven't heard enough out of her to really, be able to put no judgment where she's at as far as mental wise goes. Um, but I believe that, like Candace, I think I think Candace is more of I think she is like, I don't think she's bipolar. I don't think Candace is bipolar. If you ask me, you know, that's not. I wouldn't say she is. She tries to say, I know she tries to say that supposedly that's what they, labeled her as, but I think they labeled her wrong, to be honest with you. Um, I think she got labeled wrong, um, to be honest. Dom Wells, I don't think Dom Wells is capable. I don't think he's capable of taking someone out of the world. I think he's capable of. Don Wells is one of those people who want other people. He's one of those people that wants to get other people to do his evilness. Like, you know, he's more he's more one of he's more like that the Jones guy that that gets people. Don Wells goes and he associates with people and pulls people in, and then he uses these people to do his evilness. He brainwashes other people into doing things. He's very dangerous. He's very dangerous because, because he's able to pull people in. Yeah, Charles Manson. Exactly. He's able to pull people in and then, brainwash them into doing some sinister stuff. And you'd be surprised at how many people are cowards. They're fucking cowards, but they're evil as hell, and they use other people to do their dirty deeds. They're too coward to do it themselves. But they're not coward. They're not so coward that they won't use people around them to do it. And that's sick. That's sick. If you're too damn coward to do it yourself, why would you have other people do it? But what goes around comes around, right? That karma's a bitch. As they say, karma's a bitch. I don't believe in karma. I believe in God. Because the Bible plainly states, when people talk about karma, no. I tell you what happens to you is what the Bible says. It will be measured up and it will be poured back upon you. Let it be good or evil. It will be poured back upon you. So, you better be giving out all good, because you sure don't want God pouring that evil back upon you, do you? I sure I wouldn't want no, and I tell you, God knows just when to pour it on you too. He knows just when to pour it back out upon you. Right? Like that song, Johnny Cash song. You can run on for a long time. You can run on for a long time. But sooner or later, you're going to get what's coming to you. And God's going to pour it back out upon you. He's going to pour it back out upon you. You ain't going to like it when he does. You don't get away with nothing. You don't get away with the damn thing in this life. Trust me. I know. Oh, yeah. They might think they got away. These guys might think they got away with, doing sinister things to these children. They might believe that they got away with doing some sinister stuff to these little kids. Look at that. Look how dirty that slide is. Look at that sliding board. Man, these some beautiful little kids too, right? Man, that little girl, she's so beautiful, and that little boy, he's just as cute as a button. The school bus driver said that that little Jack would take his boot off and throw it at him, when he was trying to talk to him and he wouldn't listen. He'd throw his boot at him. And he's, that man got into tears, right? He missed little Jack. He missed that boot. And it really, when things like this happen, it's a chain reaction. It touches so many people's lives, right? I mean, these people don't think past the end of their noses. They think that, everything, like Don and Candace, they think everything was about them, right? But it wasn't. It's not about Don and Candace. When Summer came up missing, it touched a lot of people. It touched all the people at the church that knew these kids, loved these kids, cared about these kids. It touched all the people at the school, all them teachers and all of those people who, liked those kids and seen those kids every day. And now they're not seeing these kids at all. It touches all the neighbors and everyone that was so used to seeing these kids. And, whether they liked them, they didn't like them, it still touches their life because these kids are gone, in one way or another. It touches all of these people. And then it gets into the news and it gets into the papers and it touches even more people, all over the world. And it's just a chain reaction. It's a chain reaction that, causes a lot of trauma and a lot of, sadness, a lot of mixed emotions for all of these people who give a damn, who really care, because of, a couple people who don't care, who thought that didn't think past the end of their nose what a chain reaction this was going to cause in so many people's lives who ain't evil like them and who truly care. They don't think about that. They don't care about that because they're selfish, self-seeking, self-centered. Don and Candace still doesn't care how it affected anyone else in this world. They only care about themselves. They only care about themselves playing the victim instead of Summer being the victim. Them bastards act like they were. No, they're not victims. They're number one suspects in Summer's disappearance. And the mother of these kids and her boyfriend, they're the number one suspects in Jack and Lily's case as well. These are number one suspects. That's just how it is. And, Daniel came out. He was trying too hard. Daniel was trying. Put a 1 in the chat if you feel like Daniel was trying too hard when the kids went missing. He was trying too hard to convince people that he didn't do anything, right? And that isn't how innocent people act. That just isn't the way an innocent person acts. If you're innocent, you don't try too hard, to make people believe you're innocent, because you already are and you know it. So you don't have to put on all of this bullshit to, right from out the gate. You might have to defend yourself later down the road, right? You may have to defend yourself later down the road. If the child ain't found and people want to, turn the table and try to start staring at you, you might have to defend yourself then. But, you don't have to do it out the gate. And when somebody's trying that hard out the gate, it's like, whoa, this this is suspicious. This is who we might want to be looking at. Just saying. Yeah, it is. It's beyond comprehension. Yes, it is. 71. It is. For real. They are adorable. They're adorable, Marilyn. Absolutely. And no babies should ever have to, go through all of this. No baby should have to go through all of this. Two kids missing. I mean, wow. You know, two at the same time. That's insane. And nobody was hearing about any cars running or nothing um until recently, until recently. Nobody heard about no cars running back then. When these two little kids came up missing, the only thing we heard was, supposedly they heard them outside playing and then, didn't. But they didn't hear no cars. They didn't hear no doors slamming. They didn't hear anyone talking. They didn't hear none of this stuff. But all of a sudden now, you know, there's vehicles running on the driveway. Um, I gotta wonder if law enforcement looked into the people, because I know that he had a bunch of vehicles for sale, right? He was trying to sell some vehicles around the time, before these kids came up missing. He was trying to, he had some ads out there trying to sell these vehicles. You gotta wonder, did law enforcement check into the people who showed up, who had showed up on that property to buy the vehicles? Did law enforcement look into them? That's something that, I would hope they would do. Everybody that's been on that premises, over the last couple of months should definitely be looked into. Right? If you've been around there the last couple, and that's why it's really important, it's really important to write down, names, to take screenshots, right? People coming to your residence, you should have a camera, and you should actually save, you should save the video from your cameras at least, 6 months at a time. Right? I mean, up to 6 months worth of footage all the time should be kept back and saved. Because, if something was to happen, law enforcement could be able to go through, your video footage and see what cars had been coming by, what people have been coming onto the property, and, whether it be, handyman workers, or, plumbers, or, door dashes and grocery people and stuff like, delivery. It doesn't matter. They are able to, go back and look and see, who all's been visiting up, maybe long lost relatives, old friends that you hadn't seen in a while. It's always good to keep, extra footage of what's been coming around your home, and, everybody's camera footage has a range. It has a range, right? And a lot of people just, go up to the perimeters of their property, but you can go beyond the perimeter of your property to see, just to tell what vehicles are coming through the community. And like our community, most people have their perimeter set, past their, you know, perimeter of where their property is. They have it all the way so that they can pick up, all the vehicles coming through the community so that, if anything happens in the community, law enforcement can come around and like, for the most part, they're going to get footage of every car that's been coming through the community for a while. To see if it's the same one, all the ones that, was coming through during the time, the particular time that something went down. You don't have to set it right at the, right on your property line and just care about you. You can set it a little farther than that and care about everybody, in your community. So that, and I know that, setting it like that can be a bugaboo, right? It can be a bugaboo. But you want to keep all the kids in your community safe, and you want to keep all the adults safe as well, and the older people safe. And, you always want to be prepared because you don't know when something might happen. You don't know. And you should always be prepared if it does. You hope for the best, prepare for the worst, right? If the neighbors around there would have had, video footages, and if Jack and Lily's place would have had, video, well, we would know what happened to Jack and Lily now, right? And I'm telling you, video footage is inexpensive today. It don't cost that much. If grandma out there in her camper would have had a couple cameras pointing out the windows, like down the driveway and, out in the play area, that, to her, and it would show everything on her phone, right? It shows everything on your phone. If she would have had those cameras, well, she would have knew exactly what happened to Lily and Jack. She would have knew exactly what direction they went in, if they went with anybody, if something, more sinister happened, if their mom did it, her son did it. I mean, and it's inexpensive, right? It's inexpensive. It don't cost that much to get these video cameras. Actually, Jack and Lily swing costs more than a couple of those cameras, right? It's inexpensive, and everyone should have cameras on their property. It's, in today's world, it is vital to have it. Oh yeah, it's scary to put your kids on school buses. It's scary to send your kids to school. It's scary, it's scary to let your kids out of your sight at any time. It's scary. It's scary, to send your, in today's world, you know, your dad, your brother, your, your husband, the people you love, your daughter, right? Your grandchild, your great grandchild. It's scary today because they could go to work and not come home. They could go to school and not come home. They could go to the store and not come home. Do you know how many people, you know, do you know how many kids went to school and didn't come home? You know how many people go to the dang Walmart store, they don't ever come home? You know how many people go to work and they don't come home? 9/11 taught us that, right? 9/11 taught us that. A lot of people, it's not safe anymore. It's not safe. I mean, they're actually right now, they're calling, these people are actually calling, like 911. They're calling, paramedics out. And then when they come out, they attack them, right? They're calling law enforcement out. And when law enforcement goes, they attack them. I mean, that's how evil this world has gotten. That's how evil this has gotten. Yeah, I'm going to tell you. I mean, just if you don't have surveillance, if you do not have cameras, you don't have surveillance, I suggest you get it. I suggest you put the money towards it. It'd be the best money you ever spent. Get that surveillance. You'd be surprised at what you see on it. You would be absolutely surprised at what you see, you know, going on outside your home. You'd be surprised what you see going on outside of your home when you're not looking. Grieving mother, you crack me up. Yeah, I'm gonna tell you. Um, you got to think of it this way. If an evil person done something evil to you, so evil that the next thing you saw was Jesus putting his hand out to take you home, would you worry? Would you worry about getting back at that person? That would be the last thing on my mind. When I see Jesus's hand come out and I was able to grab onto that, if an evil person was to do something like that, and to the point that I got to see Jesus's hand reaching out to take me, I tell you what, I'm going to tell Jesus, I'm sorry that they're evil. I wish they wasn't evil. But I'm just glad he was there to take my hand. And I'm going to leave that person to Jesus. I'm going home. And that person ain't going to be a thought to me no more. And really, to be honest with you, I would hope that that person becomes a good person. I would hope that, that they get with God, they get right. And I would hope they, someday they get to take Jesus's hand too. Even though they done me so bad, I still hope that they make it as well. And I think that's the way these kids feel as well. I think that these, when evil people do evil stuff, I think these kids, and usually, when you get unalived, usually the person, right? Usually the person who did it to you. And at some point you must have loved them. You must have loved them at some point. Maybe you still, maybe you didn't know they were so evil and you still loved them. You didn't ever think they'd do something like that to you. But you know what? I think those kids, I think they still would love their parents, and I think they would forgive them. And I think they, would hope that their parents, find God and make it to heaven as well. That's why the Bible says we got to be like a child. That if you ain't like a child, you can't enter the gates of heaven. It said no one will enter the gates of heaven that ain't like a child. And you have to have that child's mind in order to get into heaven. And a child, well, children, don't understand why people do evil things. They just know that they wish they didn't. And they just know that, kids are very forgiving. They're very forgiving. Uh, you know, Children that get really severely abused, they still love their parents. They still want to see their parents, want to be around their parents, right? They still they wish their parents weren't like that. They don't understand why, you know. And but when they get older, well, you know, that's when the hate comes in, right? That when they get older, they say, "Oh, my parents abused me, and I can't stand what they did to me," and But when they were little, it didn't matter. That kid just knew that it loved its parents. They wished they wouldn't hurt them and wouldn't do the bad things to them, but they still loved them. And if something really bad would have happened, that child would have loved their parent for eternity, because that's the mind of a child. That's what separates children from teenagers, young adults, and older people. Like when, I don't know if you guys heard about the Amish. Do you remember the guy that went to the Amish school and unlived a bunch of the little Amish children? Put a one in the chat if you remember that. Yeah, and they may actually, there's a Lifetime has a movie on that particular um topic of those children. And the little girl, the sister of the one little girl that got unalived. um well, the older one that was going to be a teacher, she was going to be, there's one girl there that went there that day to you know to learn how to be a teacher. She was going to become a teacher in that school, and she went there to mentor with the teacher that was there. And that's why she was there that day, was to hang with the teacher, and to start learning how to become a teacher for the community. And anyway, she got unalived. But before this particular man unalived her, she told him, "We forgive you." Right? She let him know, "We forgive you. Even though you're doing this evil, we forgive you." And so that's what I'm talking about. you know Even though this man was very bad and doing a very bad thing, that little girl opened her eyes with the Lord. She opened her eyes with the Lord. She forgave that man before, even as bad as he was doing. She said, "You're forgiven." That's the mind of a child. That's the mind of a child. Yeah, it's absolutely sad. It's really sad. But that's just how children are. You know, getting even, getting even ain't the answer. When it comes to haters, and evil people, you know, your best bet, your best bet, is let them do what they do and you do what you do. Let them hate, let yourself forgive. Let them, do evil, let yourself keep doing righteousness. You keep doing you and let them do whatever they're going to do, right? It's not, all of their hate and all of the one thing I learned is when people, hate and they're evil like that, it got nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with you. It's all them. That's their hate. That's their evilness. You're just the person they picked to pick on. They've got a whole list of people. They got a whole list. Unlike you, they've got a whole list. You have no list at all. You don't have a list because you don't hate on people. That's just not your bag. It's not something you do. Even though sometimes you gotta, put on your suit of armor and stand against it and not let it, try to overcome you. It's important not to let it overcome you in this world. But, you don't have a list. Their name ain't on no list because you don't have one. You're on their list. They're the only ones that's got a list. The only list you care about is that book of life sitting up there in heaven. That's the only list you care about, and you hope your name's on it. Right? You hope your name's on it. Just like it is on those haters list, right? You hope your name's on that list in heaven. And you don't have a list. You don't have a list of people that you're going to go pick on or say stuff about. That's insane. You're always looking for friends, not foes. Yeah, the Amish people, I think it's horrible to pick on Amish people because, Amish people are like the best people, right? They're like the best people. They they don't bother nobody. They stay to themselves. They don't become anything. They don't become any part of this, English world, the world that we thrive in. They don't, ain't part of that, which I'm not part of that either. I'm not part of this world. I've been set aside from this world. When you become a child of, when you become a child of God, when you go really, when you really, ask Jesus for forgiveness for all your sins, and you end up at that altar and you end up going through that water, right? You end up getting baptized and the Holy Spirit comes upon you and and chases all the evil spirit away, the sinfulness out of you. And you come up out of that water with your eyes open. You went down blind and you came up alive, right? Basically, people who have not been baptized, have not, found God and got baptized, their eyes are closed. They're blind. Their eyes are closed. And and they're a sinner. And they're going to, and if something happened, they're going to be left behind or they're going to go, to a bad place. But you have to find Jesus Christ, or at least pray that he finds you. And you got to ask for that forgiveness for all the evil that you do. or done. Maybe you feel like you ain't really done a lot, but you've done enough. You lied, you done some bad things. So you get forgiveness for all of that. And you go down in the water, you know, basically you're a walking on live person. You go down in that water and you come up with your eyes open. You're alive. And you know it. You don't know that person that just came down into that water. You know it was, it's supposed to have been you, but you're like, whoa, wow, that was me. Oh, you don't want to know that person no more. Your eyes are open and you want to keep them open. And your name's in the book of life and you're set aside from the world. You're not part of it. You're part of the body of Christ. You're no longer a part of this world. You're part of the body of Christ. And that's where you want to stay. That's where you want to stay. And if you want to stay there, you can't have no list. You can't be hating on people. There's nothing wrong with standing up for yourself. There's nothing wrong with wearing your suit of armor and not letting evil overtake you. You're not supposed to let it overtake you. But you're also not supposed to hate these people, right? I don't hate anybody. I really don't hate no one. I just try to show people, I just try to show these people how it feels to be done the way they do us, right? I'm just trying to give them back a little bit of what they gave, hoping that they'll see that, they don't like it and they won't do it to us no more. But some of these people just don't get the memo, right? They don't get the memo. And, what do you do in that case? What do you do in that case? I don't know. Like, you wish they'd get the memo. Like, hey, I didn't like that. Well, maybe I shouldn't be doing it to others. But I don't think they're that educated. I don't think they're that smart. They just, I think they just see it as, an excuse to be even more evil at that point, right? That's what I think. And that's weird. That's weird. But that's how evil works. Mm-hmm. Amen, PG. I need to hear this tonight. Got this one person. You're right. I'm going to tell you, I think we all got those people. I think we all got those people. And just if you can turn your back, always do. If you could turn your back and walk away, if you could say, conversation over and just walk away, do it. Now, if they persist, right? If you're trying to walk away and they're persisting, well, at that point, you might have to ask Jesus to hold your coat, right? You might have to ask Jesus to hold your coat. I'm sure he will. You might have to have him hold your coat. That's all I got to say, because, they want to be persistent. Then I guess, it is what it is. That's just how, it works. Yeah, I love so and so, but I don't like their way. Yeah, you know, it's like I love them, but I don't love what they do. I don't love how they act. I don't want, love who they are. You know who they are. Um, but how they act and who they are is them. You know, you can't. I learned a long time ago. You can't make provisions for people. You can't make provisions for evil people. You can't say, um, I love them, but not what they do, because what they do is them, and they shouldn't be doing it. And I have to acknowledge, I have to acknowledge that they are doing it, and I don't want them around me doing it, whatever they're doing. I just don't want it in my presence. You know, I see a lot of people fighting to keep people in their life. Um, they feel like they need these people in their lives, and I was there. I was there once upon a time, thinking, fighting to keep these people in my life, and not appreciating the ones that was. And I'll tell you what, right out of the mouth of a child, they say a child shall lead us, but right out of the mouth of a child, I heard, you need to be paying attention to the people that love you and are around you, and forget the ones that are only around when they want something and they need something. You need to, those users and abusers gots to go. I'm going to tell you, sometimes it's a wake up call. Sometimes you get a wake up call. And I'm going to tell you what, when I started putting my focus on all the people who love me and care about me and is always there for me, I became a lot happier person. A lot happier person. I felt better. I looked better. And I had more. I had more because I didn't let these people come and take everything no longer. And I was damn glad that I shunned them, and wished I'd have shunned them a lot sooner than I did. Because people like that, you don't need them. You don't need people in your life that, just call or come around when they want something. Those people are broken sticks, and if you ever need anything, trust and believe they won't be there for you. You might think they will, but you ain't fooling nobody but your damn self. The ones that's going to be there for you are the ones that are there already. They're the ones that's going to be there. And those people that's always there for you, they get taken for granted because they are always there for you. They get taken for granted while you're chasing the ones that ain't. And you should have put that time and effort in. And by the time you figure out that you should be putting your time and effort in the ones that are there for you, well, a lot of times it's too late. It's too late. Because chasing after those other people can run the ones that really, really want to be there and really was there off from you. Or maybe, or maybe, well, they passed away. They passed away before you realized it. So the best thing you can do is be wise. Look around you, see who's for you and with you, and be there for them and with them, and say the hell with everybody else. It's what you got to do. If you want to be happy in this life, it's what you got to do. Quit chasing, freaking waterfalls. Exactly, grieving mother. Exactly. Right? Right. Oh, I'm gonna tell you. You have a lot of people in this world, the takers who, them takers they're they will come and they will come and take and take and take. They're all take, no give. They expect instead of respect, right? They don't care how much you do for them. You know, they expect you to be doing for them. That's your job. People, people who use you all the time, they start to believe that's your job, is letting them use you. And you got to carve those people out of your life. You got to tell them, go somewhere else with it. And I tell you what, if you stop helping them, you'll see that they're doing just fine anyway, right? They want what you got. They want theirs and yours. And the thing is they're spending theirs however they want, and they're spending yours however they want. And you, well, you know, you're stressed out. You're stressed out because you're always having to help these people, and you don't ever get to have much of nothing for yourself. You know, you always say, well, I'll get myself stuff later. I'll get myself stuff. Well, later don't ever come, because they will use you up till the day you're gone. They'll use you up till the day you're gone. And then they'll probably try to figure out the cheapest way to dispose of you. Right? They try to think of the most cheapest way to dispose of you, so that they'll have more. So they'll have more of whatever you left behind. Right? That's just how the world's going, man. I'm not making this shit up. I ain't making it up at all. Right? That's right. That's right, Amanda. God helps those who help themselves. You got that right. You know, I used to feel sorry for evilness. I really did. I thought, they know not what they do, and I'm pretty sure they know what they don't know what they're doing. I'm sure of that. But I'm gonna tell you what, I ain't gonna let them be doing it to me. That's for sure. Hell to the no. I put up with enough evilness in my life. I ain't gonna ever put up with it again. Can't do it. Ain't going to do it. No way. Form or how. I walk the righteous path now. I ain't got time for it. I figure God didn't give me a suit of armor. He didn't give me a suit of armor to let evilness overtake me. He gave me that suit of armor to overtake it, to be able to put it in its place. And that's what I will do. Don't come messing with me. I seen too many Christians. I've seen too many Christians, including myself at one particular time, putting up with too much of these evil people's crap. They prey on us. They come around and they want to get their foot through the door, and and you're nice, and they get their foot through the door, and then they they take full advantage of your kindness. They see your kindness as weakness. I'm going to tell you, I'm everything but weak. You made a mistake when you take my kindness for weakness. You made one hell of a mistake. Absolutely. He gave us all a brain. He gave us common sense. Well, I'm going to tell you, he did give everybody a brain. Some people just don't use it. That's what I think. I think some people like Don and Candace Wells, they don't use that brain that God gave them. I don't think I think evil people are lazy. I think they're too lazy to use their brain, right? Hey, Carrie, I appreciate that, girlfriend. Whoa, super sticker. All right. Hey, girl. God bless. God bless. Absolutely. We appreciate that. I appreciate the help for Summer's channel. But yeah, God gave us all a brain. And I tell people, use your brain. Use your brain. God gave it to you. Don't be a follower. Don't be a follower. Don't follow humans. Follow God. Follow Jesus Christ. Follow the Holy Spirit. Follow the Bible. Don't follow humans. Because humans will lead you down the wrong path. You got to be smart enough to say no. No, not today, Satan. Not today. Not tomorrow or ever. I belong to God. I ain't got time. I ain't got time for none of this. Stay on that righteous path because that's why you're here. That's why you're here on this earth, is to prove to God that you're good enough to live forever in heaven. I don't know about Jack and Lilly. I don't know about these two kids. I mean, I don't know if they're still with us or not with us. I don't want to make that call. I don't want to make that call on these two little kids. I hope they're still with us. I really do. I want these two babies to still be with us. I want law enforcement to find these two babies alive. That's what I want. And I hope they do. It'd be really sad if they don't. I mean, I don't think Summer's with us. I really don't. I mean, there's too much, proof. Too much proof, in my opinion. There's too much proof showing that Summer's not here. A lot more showing she's not than showing she is. But with these two kids, we have nothing. We have nothing. And, other than they're outside and gone. Hopefully, they're still here somewhere. That's what I'm hoping. Sebastian Rogers, I don't think he's with us. That's just my opinion. I don't think he is. With his shoes being in the house, his phone on the counter, the house being spotless, like somebody stayed up all night and scrubbed it from corner to corner. Everything that went down the way it went down in Sebastian's case. I think something's shady in that. And I think that, I don't think Sebastian's with us either. That's my opinion. Michael Vaughn, I don't comment on that because I know his mom really wants him to still be here, But, my opinion, I don't think he is. That's just my opinion, and that's sad. It's sad, These two little ones right here, I don't know. There's not enough. There's not enough telltale signs to know which way this went. So we don't know. We don't know. Something happened because they're missing. Something happened. But to have two kids go out at once, two children at one time, I mean, I'm not saying it ain't happened before, right? Like I've seen, I've seen where some of these cases, I've seen some of these cases where 3, 4 kids at one time comes up missing, you know, and they, they're no longer with us, right? They're no longer with us. Um, Look at the one case, the one case where, the dad didn't only, take out the mother, but he took out the children too, and then went and tried to hide them and act like they all disappeared, right? So you don't know. You don't know. I hope that ain't the case in Jack and Lily. I hope that, I hope that if Daniel did something super sinister or knows who did, knows the mother done something or he done something, I hope they come forth and I hope they tell the truth for Jack and Lily's sake. Right? But Jack and Lily's mother does not seem to be a grieving mom. Put a 1 in the chat if you feel like she's if you feel like Jack and Lily's mother is not a grieving mom. Put a 1 in the chat. Because I just don't feel like she's grieving. She ain't grieving no more than Leilani or Candace was. In my opinion. That's my opinion. She's not grieving no more than they were. Candace wasn't mother freaking grieving. She was having a party, talking to all these people and laughing and playing games and, and effing off and everything else, right? She wasn't grieving. She was hugging up to Benny Keys, Ernie, Shell. I mean, any damn body she could, right? She was just, ungodly, if you ask me. And Leilani out partying, hotels, staying at hotels, swimming and hitting the club and partying and, these ain't grieving moms. These are not grieving moms. Just like the Boswell case. That ain't no grieving mom either. She was laying around with her boyfriend, These people ain't missing their kids. They're not grieving their child. And this mother here is hitting the beach. She's been at the beach every day. She's done moved over into, next door to the big chief and, and everything else. She ain't grieving. She didn't look like she was grieving when she was, and talking to the news and stuff, before she hauled ass with her mommy and didn't come back. She didn't look like she's grieving. She looked like she was running. She was running from it. That's what she looked like to me. And when you run like that, you look guilty. Just like Candace, when Summer came up missing, Candace was running away from the police, right? She took off and hid in the house, talking to her little friends. And this kid's mom, same way. And so did Leilani. Leilani took off, ran to a hotel. That's a sure sign of mother freaking guilt. In my opinion, that's my opinion. So she's no different, she ain't acting no different than the rest of these people who in my book, we know are guilty as hell and we truly believe is guilty as hell. So, she's on the same page, you guys. She's on the same page. That's just how it is. But it's sad, because ain't nobody paying the price except these kids and all the people in the world who truly care. Right? Everybody that cares about what happens to other people, we're paying the price. These kids are paying a price. Everybody who actually has love, kindness, caring, and their body, minds, and souls are paying the price. Because evil people just don't give a damn. You believe it or not, look at that place. Take a look at it. Whoa. And like I said, if grandma would have just had a mother freaking camera right there in that front window, well, a lot of answers would have been there to be had. If they'd had cameras in the front windows of this, this dump. Look at that. Look at the front windows of that place. They'd have just had some cameras there. We would have, well, they probably have hit them like Allison. Allison had cameras, right? We know that she got cameras because somebody came in the house and took, walked out with the game machine. And she got cameras in her house that she could watch on her phone. She had one in the window, one, supposedly a couple of them inside the house. Them cameras disappeared. They disappeared June 15th, 2021. Right? Why did they disappear? What law enforcement should have did is took what they should have done is not just took Hunter's phone, but they should have took Allison's phone. They should have confiscated Alice's phone, because her phone would have had, even if she hid the cameras, she may have still had the app on her phone. And that way they could have accessed the video from her phone, even if the cameras were hidden away before law enforcement got there. Right? Maybe we would have known what happened to Summer had they took Allison's phone that had, that she had been using to monitor those cameras. It's sad that they didn't. But anyway, I've kept you guys in here long enough. I kept you in here long enough tonight. I just wanted to come in and talk about the case because I heard, like I said, that there was a letter found supposedly saying all this weird stuff. I heard that they're trying to say a vehicle was on this driveway, a running vehicle that morning, when we didn't hear no shit like that at the beginning. Starting to hear, it sounds like people's trying to make stuff up, to get out of some stuff is what it's sounding like. But I'm really waiting to see if this this letter gets verified, or not. Like I said, I don't know if it's true. I'm just hearing it. My husband's half brother, my husband's half sister, has 5 children, but she only had them for the money. Her 13-year-old son, whoa, wow, really? It was built in, whoa, yeah, that's the problem. That's a problem in our society. That's a problem in our society. Yeah, that was an eye opener, right? We don't talk to any of his family or my family, and that's how we like it. Amen, Carrie. Amen. I want to tell you, absolutely, family can destroy. They, what I'm saying is, outside family can destroy your life if you let them, because um They don't want to see you. They don't want to see you succeed. You know, they don't want to see you succeed in this life. Absolutely not. Outside family, no, I think you're right, girlfriend. You got it right. If when you get married, and you start your own family, you need to leave your out your your parents' family, alone. You know, like your parents, you growed up in a family, right? You growed up with your brothers and your sisters, and that's your parents' family. Your brothers and sisters are not your family, they're your parents' family. Your family is your husband and your children. And a lot of people don't understand that. A lot of people don't understand what their family is. Your parents and your brothers and sisters, that's not your damn family anymore. Your family consists of your husband and your kids. And you can't let your outside, that's what they call outside family. You cannot let your outside family in, because they're not going to like they ain't going to like your husband, they ain't going to like your kids, they ain't going to. And I tell you another thing, for some reason, I don't know why, but brothers and sisters are jealous of hell. They're jealous as hell of everything you have. They want it. They want it. They don't want to see you succeed. You'd be surprised at how many siblings do not want to see the other siblings succeed in life. Even if they're succeeding, even if they're excelling, they don't want to see you do it. They want, they always want to hold people down, instead of, and they act like, they act like they want to see you excel, and they act like to your face, but behind your back, they're talking mad shit, right? They're talking some mad shit. And you don't need people like that in your life. Behind your back, they're talking a bunch of crap about you and your husband and your kids, and and you're not doing that to them, right? You're not doing that to them. You always building them up, always being kind to them, always being, um trying, hoping the best for their families. Always excited when they get things. And you know you're always nice. And they're just ugly. They're just ugly. Always got shitty things to say. Just haters. And I don't know. I don't know what makes them that way. I don't even care. I don't even care. Once upon a time, I cared. I don't. I don't anymore. Like I said, man, I do me. I do me, and I let them haters do them. I stay on that righteous path, and I let them go wherever where the hell they feel comfortable. Just keep it away from me. I don't care anymore. I'm too blessed to be stressed, right? I love the life I'm living. I'm happy, and that's all I care about. That's all I care about. I wish I would have been living this life a lot sooner. I wish I'd been living it a lot sooner, you know. But we live and we learn, you know. And for some reason, I always had to learn the hard way. Put a one in the chat if you always had to learn the hard way. Man, I'm gonna tell you, I was that person that always had, I was always in the fast lane. I was always in the fast lane, you know, and didn't learn nothing until I hit the wall. Right? And that's just, that's who the hell I am, who I was. That's who I was. I learned, I've learned to, um, work smarter instead of harder. Right? I've actually learned to take heed. Somebody tells me something, I'm like, I think I'm going to listen to that. I'm not going to learn the hard way. You know, they probably done been there, done did that. And, you know, and I appreciate them saving my backside from going there. You know, at some point you got to learn to listen. At some point you got to learn to listen. And God bless the ones. God bless the ones that, you know, didn't have to learn the hard way. God bless the ones that were smart enough to listen right from the, you know, right out the gate. Because those are, you know, those are the ones that live the best life. They live an easier life. That's the way I was too, second to none. That's the way I was. I was too damn good. I'm going to tell you something. My family didn't deserve me. That's the truth. That's the truth. They didn't deserve PG. You know, I was kind. I was kind, caring. I go out of my way. I would go out of my way for my family, my blood, my blood. I'd go out of my way. I'd walk through hell for them. And I tell you what, they wasn't about to walk through no hell for me. They was putting me through hell. They was putting me through hell. That's what they did. And you know, I ain't got a damn thing for them. To be honest with you, that's the truth. I'm not gonna lie. I got, you know, one sister I talk to. I love my sister, but I got a lot of family. I got a lot of family that, you know, I wouldn't wipe my ass on, and that's the truth. They ain't worth it. You know, too evil for me. Too damn evil for PG. I don't do evil. You know, that was their loss, right? Their loss. My gain. My gain. When I became smart enough to see who they really was, how they really were, what the hell they really, you know, are, that was my gain, their loss. I'd be first to tell you, family will fuck you first. They will fuck you first because they feel they can. They feel like, you know, like they can. Like they take, like, you know, they have priority over everyone else. Right? And you got to show them that no, you can't. You know, you got to let that shit go. Don't cast your pearls before swines, y'all. I don't care if it's your family or not. Don't cast your pearls before swines. The Bible tells you they'll trample those pearls and turn on you. And that's what they do. That's what they do. Don't, you know, don't be putting your pearls out there for them to trample. Stay away from them. Let them go trample somewhere else. Just stay away from them. Amen. Ain't that right, Amanda? I'm going to tell you, Jesus was meek, not weak. He was, you know, he was meek, not weak. And that's what I'm saying. Don't take people's kindness. Don't ever take a person's kindness for weakness. I'm going to tell you, I appreciate people's kindness. I appreciate it. I ain't ever had that much kindness in my life. So when people give me kindness, I sure appreciate it. And that's the truth. God knows. God knows PG's heart. He knows the hell that I walked through. And he knows I appreciate everything, everything I get. That's the truth. All right, you guys. I'm going to head out of here, but I'm going to be back, God willing, God willing. I'm going to be back tomorrow night. And I'll tell you, you won't want to miss tomorrow night. You don't want to miss it. Um, I'm bringing in some real good stuff. Some real good stuff. It ain't about Jack and Lily, um, at all. This is on Summer's case. This is on Summer's case, and it's right out of the mouth of the horse. Baby, I'm packing proof. I'm packing proof. I'm bringing it tomorrow night, and you do not want to miss it. That's all I got to say. Don't want to let the cat out the bag too soon, but I'm going to be back. So don't miss tomorrow night, you guys. I just wanted to come in tonight, hang out, spend some time, and talk about Jack and Lily because of the new stuff that's been put out, and the fact that Jack and Lily really isn't getting, they're not getting a lot of attention now. They're not getting, a whole lot of attention out here. Matter of fact, Sebastian's case ain't getting a lot of attention either. Summer's case is coming back full speed. I see everybody is covering Summer again. Sebastian's case really ain't getting a lot of movement no more. Jack and Lily's case is starting to end up like Sebastian. And Summer's case is coming full speed back into view again because of what, all that's going on in it with the cemetery and a whole lot of other stuff. So, we'll be back on that tomorrow night, and you guys do not want to you do not want to miss what I've got prepared for you. So I'll see you tomorrow night, but until then, keep those prayers going up for Summer Moon Utah Wells. Keep those prayers going up. This baby has not been found. She needs to be found, brought home, and justice served. Keep those prayers going up for Jack and little Lily. Wherever these sweet babies are, wherever they're at out there, let us pray that somebody comes forth unless these two babies be found. Why can't these people just let someone have these kids that would love them and treat them righteous, and and give them a life that that if the mother and that stepdad couldn't give them the life they deserved, then let someone else do it. Give these babies to someone who will educate them and love them and care about them and raise them to be, brilliant and productive adults in this world to come, right? Raise them up. Let them, and most of the time, and I tell you, most of the time, if you give these kids to someone who will raise them righteously, when these kids are raised, they'll come back looking for you. These kids are looking for their parents every day. Every day you find children reaching out, trying to find their real parents, wanting to see their real parents, because there is a bond between real parents that nothing else could ever take the place of. Nothing. Children always seek their biological parents. Even no matter who's raising them, they want their biological parents. And they'll be back. They'll be back at some point. So give them to the people and let someone else do what you can't. If you really love your kids, you'll give them to somebody else to do what you can't if you can't do it. If you can do it, then keep them and do it. But if you can't, don't have them go disappear. Give them a chance at life. Give them an opportunity that they deserve. Quit being selfish, self-centered, self-seeking until the children are like this, gone. Right? Now no one has them, right? Nobody has them when things like this happen. And that's sad. And that's sad. So keep those prayers going up. Keep them going up for all of these missing children. And keep Michael Vaughn in your prayers. Keep him in your prayers, and little Sebastian Rogers as well. You guys. And keep one another in your prayers. I seen somebody in here tonight. People were praying, saying, I'm sending you love. I'm sending you prayers. Everybody needs prayer. All of us. Every last one of us needs prayer. We need prayers for, if we're not doing good, well, we need prayers so we can get better. And if we are doing good, we need prayers to keep doing good. So no matter how it goes, we need those prayers, you guys. So keep them up, going up. Let God know that you're not just praying for yourself, but you're praying for everybody. Because you want to see everybody in heaven, not somebody. Amen. Good night, everybody. God bless. Much love.